Hello, everybody. I am Kurt Whitesell, and I want to welcome you to the coolest and most informative podcast in the Westfield, Indiana area. It's called What's Up Westfield. What's Up Westfield is a local chat fest to dig deep into politics, development, who's doing what, and anything else we can fit into 45 minutes of fun behind a microphone. If you have any topics or interest in being an amazing guest, please reach out to us, and we'd love to hear your ideas. So today is a special podcast. We're here at Jan's Village Pizza, which is like a staple in downtown Westfield and right in the heart of everything. It's been here for many, many years, and just like other local hotspots, I'm sure a lot of people have great memories here. And so I thought it'd be fun to come here because it's one of the old, time-wise old buildings. It's got a lot of history, and it's just a fun remote place to meet my awesome new guest at. So to introduce my friend here, she is for my special podcast for What's Up Westfield. I'm super excited about this. I thought about this from when I started this podcast that I'd interview her. It's from her Facebook profile. Her name is Judy Shuck. And I don't know if that's how she wants to be called, but welcome Judith Stanley Shuck.
Just call me Judy.
So many of you know Judy. I'll tell you how I met Judy. I was doing an open house for downtown Westfield for all the commercial vacant buildings. This was probably 10 years ago. And it just drove me crazy that there are always vacant buildings and nobody was doing anything. So I held an open house, and there's only one person that showed up to any of it, and that was you. And you stopped by and invited me to something like a coffee, or you invited me to something. And so I remember that, and I've seen you over the years. But Judy is a lifelong resident. Is that correct? A lifelong resident. I would consider you a historian and someone with a true commitment to preserving the history of Westfield. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay, cool. Well, I wanted to get that right, too. So I got your name right.
Yes.
I got your introduction right.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, if you were born here, did you ever move away? Where do you live now? Maybe your family, something like that.
I was born in Indianapolis in a hospital, but I have actually lived on West Main Street all but 4 years of my life. And when I was born, we lived in what used to be the barber shop on West Main Street.
Okay.
That little house, and then 20 months later, we moved 3 doors down into the house I live in now.
Okay.
I was away for 4 years, and so I've lived in that house. I grew up in that house. I have raised my children in that house, and I've even had grandchildren to stay with us.
Awesome.
As when they were young. Anyway, I was born into a Quaker family, and I still consider myself a Quaker. I will never let go of those roots. That's because that's very important to me. My father was I called him a gentle redhead.
Okay.
But some people don't. But no, my father was a Westfield quarterback, and my mother was a Carmel cheerleader.
Okay.
And talk about preservation, I still have their letter sweaters.
That's funny.
But growing up in Westfield, I was involved in band. I was a baton twirler. I taught 2 generations of young girls and boys baton twirling.
Like the thing you throw in the air for marching band?
Twirling.
Seems
I
dangerous.
Fire and everything. I can still twirl to this day 2 batons. And
what are we doing in this room? We should be twirling.
I know. Just come on out. We'll light the fire baton up.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But I have 5 biological children.
Okay.
And I have 3 stepchildren
Okay.
now. But I was also blessed to be American mom to 3 Nigerian boys.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And in fact, I just heard from one this morning.
Mm-hmm.
He's a professor in South Africa.
Mm.
And they just had our 24th grandchild.
Wow, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And but I had a wonderful childhood growing up in Westfield, because I remember, they've developed Park Street now, but as a kid living on West Main Street, across the street from the school, and running around all over Westfield and everything, and always having friends play with you, that if we would go down to Park Street, 2 streets over, and be playing, of course, then we didn't go into people's houses and play video games. We were all out playing. But my dad had a whistle, and he knew naturally how to whistle very, very loud. And if we were on Park Street, we could hear Daddy's whistle when he got home from work and it was time for dinner.
And was there any hesitation when that whistle?
No, absolutely no hesitation whatsoever. Growing up, also, we were very involved in the community. I learned that from my parents and my grandparents. My father's cousin happened to be the town marshal here too.
Okay.
Which was kind of scary because we knew that we couldn't do anything wrong.
Or get away with anything, maybe.
Yeah, we didn't get away with anything. But, I mean, we used to play tag, which it was called something else, on our bicycles all up and down the streets. We'd be on the south end of town. We'd been on the north end of town. We played hide and seek in the cemetery.
Oh, geez. Usually you just hide, you don't seek, yeah.
Never saw any ghosts.
No.
But,
So you remember Westfield as like the ultimate small town, wonderful community. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the special thing about it is that the memories that we made as kids, and everybody knew everybody. We weren't afraid to go trick-or-treating or anything like that. And, I remember when we got the first television in town, right across the street at the Barker Brothers Shell.
Okay.
And it was only the men that could go up there and watch. I thought, don't tell me I can't go watch. But, yeah.
Simpler time, wasn't it?
Simple.
But weird, like simple, but kind of really complicated. Like the fact that only men were allowed to watch that TV.
Absolutely. I never thought anything about it. I mean, but also I was always excited when new families moved into town. I go, that's just that many more kids we can play with, And I lived in a neighborhood with a lot of boys.
Did you?
Okay. And next door to us was the empty lot. Now, my husband lived there when we were in the 3rd grade next door to me.
Okay.
And, but then they moved to Carmel. And then 2 more boys moved in next door. But anyway, that empty lot was always kind of a hangout.
Oh, okay.
Between our 2 houses, the empty lot was there, and we played football, we played baseball, we did track, we did everything. Sometimes a window would get broke out. But
nobody knew who did that.
Nobody knew who did that or anything like that. But, of course, a former football coach here in Westfield would tell you that I was the one that taught him how to play football, too. But anyway, in our house, because because it was across from the school and kids didn't have cars, kids would hang out at our house if there was an activity after school or something. They would come to our house and hang out, and everybody knew.
The parents knew where everybody was.
Yes.
They were at your house. Yeah.
My mom would always try to feed them too.
Would she?
And I know one young man called his mom and said, "Can I stay for dinner at the Stanley's house?" And then he sat down and found out what we were having for dinner. He wasn't too sure that he wanted to stay because my mother fried brains.
Oh my gosh, he left, right? Did he leave?
He just kind of sat there and just, I'm not hungry.
So your mother invited everyone, but that's how she kept the crowd small.
That's
right. So she extended the offer, but
probably. But later on, my parents had built a house on South Street, and when my kids were growing up, she fed the wrestling team.
Did she?
And usually then, after a football game, I'd wake up on Saturday morning and most of the football team would be in my house, asleep on all the couches or even on the swing on the front porch or anything. It was just a good time. Now, my kids, we had some dark times in growing up, with my kids growing up and everything. We did persevere.
Yep.
And we had this realization that, we just had to keep going. And we did. My kids didn't know they were, we were poor or anything like that. And
did you feed them brain?
I don't think I did, but we had a lot of chip beef gravy. But
I swear my mom's gonna be mad about this, but the little packets of the chip beef that you get, that's like 1/8 of an ounce of meat. I'm pretty sure she fed all of us with one of those packets in the beef. It was basically just gravy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
With a garnish of chip beef.
Yeah. But anyway, it was.
So I love that you have great memories. I had a great childhood. I'm sure there were bad stuff there, but I have great memories of my childhood, and a lot of it has to do with where I grew up, my community. It's a visual, and so I like that your goal, and you've expressed you raised your kids, you had dark times, whatever, but your goal was to create community and a wonderful atmosphere.
Yes,
and that's so important.
Yes.
Do you think that's slowly fading away in the world?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's sad because, like I said before, my father taught us to serve. My father was on the school board for 16 years. The old football stadium was named in memory of my dad. He loved every kid in this town, and I guess that came out in me and my children. My mother was even involved, the fact that she was township trustee for 8 years and had me involved in that. But the community looked after each other. It's just like now we express the only time you see the cousins is at a funeral. But we thought everybody was related, really, because just we were so close. And so it was important, and in being a single mom, the neighbors being able to live in the same house that I grew up in, so the people knew me as a child and an adult, and they knew more about me than I really wanted them to, as an adult. But they looked out after me. I can tell you that. Even the former postmistress that lived across the street from me, one Sunday evening we were showing slide pictures on the living room wall. And of course it faced the front of the house, and you see the flashes of light because the pictures were coming on the wall and everything. And our neighbor called across the street, "Is everything okay?" You know.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
it was just a.
Nowadays we look the other way. We run from that headache, that hassle. Okay, so I want to first of all, for any of you who do not know who Judith Stanley Shuck is, let me just describe her real quick. Judy lives in the house next to the Speedway gas station. When she talks about her house, that is where she's at. So everyone knows where that house is. You see sometimes Judy walking around. I've seen you walking around along Main Street, and she's got blonde hair. She's about 5.5 feet tall, maybe. Are you that tall even? What are you, 4'11"? Okay. and while she is a sweet woman, do not cross her at a city council meeting, correct? Or a planning commission meeting, but she'll do it gracefully. And so this is one thing why I want to interview you, because we probably disagree on a lot of stuff, but you're always respectful and you're always generous with trying to understand the other side. So obviously we come from totally different mindsets of what Westfield is to us. I mean, we probably couldn't be any further apart on that, but we probably want the same goal in the end. We just have different routes, and maybe it's same goal from a culture, from an experience standpoint. So now I've got a couple of questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready to announce your candidacy for mayor? No.
Oh my goodness, no. Absolutely.
Wouldn't that
be fun? Oh my goodness. You know, people have asked me that. Oh, why aren't you mayor? I go, nope, no thank you.
No thank you. It doesn't sound like an awful job.
Yes. Yes, it does, and it's a pretty sad job.
It is. I think it would be hard. Like, I like the old way. Like, being a mayor, probably 30 years ago was probably kind of fun. Like, it was about loving just going around being a nice guy or lady. I think today it's so political and it's so dollar driven. It's a business.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yes. Mm-hmm. You nailed it. I mean, and I think I've always said that, our politics here is trickled down from Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's no way around that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become so driven through money and power mm-hmm. that they've lost mm-hmm. the serving, mm-hmm. the service to the people, mm-hmm. and forgot that the people makes up the community, and that.
But they didn't, I understand, we've also kind of, it's become their job, but they haven't replaced that position, that role somewhere else in the community. The mayor, who used to be the outreach person maybe, took a different job, but they didn't replace that outreach person. And so now it's almost like there's a disconnect that used to be filled by the mayor. Do you think I'm wrong by that?
Not exactly wrong. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess he has been replaced, but does it have to be that way?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I looked, because of my experience at what I did mm-hmm. as an adult.
What did you do?
I was a software support person.
You're a tech person?
For government accounting.
Oh my gosh, okay.
And so I traveled to the towns uh-huh. and the cities and, uh-huh. and mostly to schools mm-hmm. all over the state of Indiana. And I saw some political, garbage going on and stuff. You can't help but. Mm-hmm. Because when you mess with money, people's money, you see that. Mm-hmm. But I also saw a lot of community. Mm-hmm. I went to a very, very small school to a large school, and so forth. And politics is everywhere.
It is, and it's deeper and deeper than it's ever been.
Yes, but as far as a community, how fast we've grown and so forth, we have lost touch with the, I don't want to say this, the real Westfield people.
Yeah,
No,
maybe.
the
I
people
get it.
that have been here for so many years
Mhm.
feel like they've been neglected.
Mhm.
You know, they feel disconnected and so forth. They just,
How do you think that happens? Do you think it happens because they're it's they're pushed that way, or do you think it happens because it's exhausting to try to maintain? I mean, you're relentless, but do you think a lot of people it's just not worth the fight? How do you think that happens?
now they do, well, they're going to do what they want to
Mm-hmm.
anyway. That's what I hear all the
Mm-hmm.
time. They and I guess this is unfortunate. I don't know. I'm blessed that people that have lived here a long time, I'm kind of their go-to person.
Okay.
Judy, what are they
Mm-hmm.
doing?
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing now? We just get so upset and so forth. It's we've lost that small community
Yeah. So
feel.
do you feel like they're okay? We're beyond we're growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we? So I know that you aren't beyond thinking that the city's going to grow, the town's going to grow. Do you feel like there were opportunities to not grow so fast, or if are there opportunities to not grow fast in the future that we can do responsibly, or do you think it's just organic? This is how it happens.
Well, if we let it be
Mm-hmm.
how it happens,
Mm-hmm.
we do. I think there's always opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's always opportunities to say, hey, this is what we need to do. Let's get together.
Mm-hmm.
Let's um, get together and decide. Okay, can we do this or can we do that? What's the outcome going to be?
Mm-hmm.
What's I
So
remember
give me a specific.
Specific?
Give me a specific in your head where you feel like it's controllable or it's you can do a better way of doing something. Is it housing? Is it like a commercial? Is it schools or is it parks?
It's all of those because
Mm-hmm.
we all are a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Even yeah, I'm out of school here, but my grandkids are
Mm-hmm. You're still directly affected.
I'm still directly affected and so forth. My grandkids are affected. My children graduated from here, and but when people come in, I mean, as far as housing goes and so forth, it's like, okay, my analogy of this is like when we used to have the Thomas the Train table in our playroom for the grandkids, because we have mostly grandsons, and they would come over and stay with Grammy, and we would be at the table. We'd build and well, that doesn't go there, and that doesn't go there. We'd build it to make it work, so we could get that train all the way around that table. But we'd have to try something different sometimes. But we had to say, well, what does that need to look like?
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like what we have here. Now, what does that need to look like? Do we need to have our downtown look like a historical village? Do we need to, the empty fields, new buildings and everything like that? And
so do you feel like there is, and you're a very intelligent lady, do you feel like there is a way to maintain a small town today?
yes,
Do you?
we've about lost it, but yes, I do. Because, okay, take Nashville, Indiana.
Okay. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Thousands of people flock there.
Jam packed.
Jam packed. They have one little highway. I've been going there since I was a little girl, so that's a long time.
20 years.
At least. Maybe.
No, it is beautiful,
maybe.
and you're right. We were there 3 weeks ago, and that came to my mind is how it's just jam packed.
It's jam packed full of people. I know we have one daughter that loves to still take her children down there at least once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And, we used to go camping in Brown County Park. I'd take 10 kids down, and we'd do tent camping.
You're out of your mind. I don't want to take my 2 kids camping, let alone 10 kids.
But we would go down there, and I think they have repurposed those houses.
Mm-hmm.
They have, there's an atmosphere down there that you are still in this village.
Oh yeah, it's like going back in time.
Going back in time
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. But yet you walk into the shops and they still have the same things
Yeah.
that you would decorate with
Mm-hmm.
today. But
do you think the city, the leaders of that city, demanded that or commanded that over time, or do you think that's what naturally has happened as the property owners, or how do you think that was driven?
I think that was driven by the community.
Do you?
I think the group. It's just like Zionsville.
Mm-hmm.
They had all their ordinances in place
Mm-hmm.
to keep their village the way it is.
Just the way it is, yeah.
Today.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, people don't like. Well, Zionsville won't let you in. And they had. You've got to have discipline in everything, but they had the foresight to see that they didn't want to change. Now,
Very early,
mind you,
yeah.
I know that some things have changed in Zionsville and so
Sure.
forth, but I love to go to that
That
Lions
village
Park.
is awesome.
That, even though it floods, I love to go to that Lions Park. I
it's a
remember
great
seeing
park.
Oscar Robertson play basketball at that
I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Oscar
Oh, is that a famous basketball
He
player?
was a famous
Okay,
basketball.
I need to look that up.
He
We
was-
got to mark that to check that.
Yes.
I don't know anything about sports.
Oh.
It's awful.
Okay.
All right, so
Well,
on that note, because this is one of my questions, one of the things, because I'm not real smart, I'm pretty black and white, and I go to Nashville and I think, oh, look at all these buildings that people have changed. And you go to Zionsville and the village with the brick streets, and people have converted all these really cool old buildings. What happened to all the buildings in Westfield?
I don't. It's been discouraging to
Uh-huh.
me because I knew when I told my dad I wanted to come back to the old
Mhm.
house and stay there, and they'd already sold the property next door.
Okay.
And
Uh-oh.
and the Speedway gas station is there now.
Yeah.
But I knew that this house, it's a kind of a buzzword. It has character.
Uh-huh.
It has character, but I know the strength of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that nobody else's house is going to be built like this.
It's
And
one
I
of a
knew-
kind.
I knew that I had to take care of it, and I had to bring it back to its beauty.
Mm-hmm.
I have refinished those floors
Mm-hmm.
in my living room and sunroom on hand with a hand sander.
It's crazy.
I know. I am.
Do you hire out? You're a flooring
Well-
contractor. So do you think, okay, when was this when you did stuff like that?
I did it in the last 10 years.
Okay. So I've been here for 15 years. Before that was there the little store? So this where we're sitting is a strip of old buildings that have been here forever, right? I mean, as long as ever. North side of the road where the bank building is, that's been here forever.
Yeah.
Was other than that, I don't feel like there have been a lot. There's it because I don't know. Was there a little store somewhere? Were there old buildings littered or sprinkled around downtown that are gone now? Were there a lot of them? Or was it all just houses for the most part?
Well,
Was there a central business district?
and you say that, these four corners were
Mhm.
the central business district.
Mm-hmm.
Where the drugstore is now was our grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's actually burned. The original building burned in the 50s and so forth, and they rebuilt that.
Okay.
I guess this was the central business
Mm-hmm.
district, these four corners, you know. There was a little gas station where Hadley Park is, you know,
Okay.
this building, this was a barber shop, and the next door was actually a grocery store when I was a little
So
girl.
hold on. Okay, let's go
Okay.
this way because this is what I
Okay.
want to know. What was in this space as you remember? What's
A
been here?
barber shop.
And are you talking in the whole Jan's area
No.
or the middle here?
This right here.
Okay, and what was where Jan's is that you remember long
It was-
ago?
Well, it's been a fabric shop. It's been an appliance store. Because at one point in time, and I'm trying to remember all of the things that it was before that, because where all I can think of now is Kelty's World.
Uh-huh.
Well, whatever it is now.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
Grand Junction Brewing Company.
that was our hardware store, and it was stayed a hardware for many, many years. And of course, this where Erica's was, that was a grocery store when Funderburger's grocery store when I was a little girl. We had the grocery store there, where Bash's was a grocery store
Well, there's
too.
a lot of
So
were there three grocery stores at
there
once?
were 3 grocery stores in town at one time, and so it was very accommodating to the community.
Yeah.
You know, at that time, and as it's just like Indianapolis, they first built Glendale Mall,
Yeah.
and so forth, and things started coming out. Then Lafayette Square, then Castleton Square, things started coming out. You know, everything moves north, you know, and then, or south, but whatever. But then those things kind of got emptied,
Yeah.
you know,
For the
down
next
there.
new thing.
And then it kind of reverses because Indianapolis built Circle Center Mall,
Yeah.
you know, and then to draw people downtown
And
and so
gunfire.
forth. Yeah. But, yeah, I used to go to college down there.
You did?
Yes.
So do you think it's, because I've always thought this is weird. Like I go to Noblesville, which is not a fair comparison because it's county seat, but like Sheridan or and Zionsville and, well, not Fishers, and they have blocks of old 200 or 150-year-old buildings, and we just don't have that. Do you know why that? What do you think the reason is why we don't have that here?
Well, you know, we were much closer
We'll be
to
all right.
closer to Noblesville.
Uh-huh.
Sheridan was kind of out there by themselves,
Uh-huh.
so they had to build, you know, a big community, and Sheridan was a booming community. Look at that wide street downtown and those buildings and so forth. They had a dime store. They had everything, you know. But we were so close to Noblesville that, because we had more than Carmel had at one time until they started growing in the late 50s.
Well, that's a good point. Carmel doesn't have an old building section.
No. No.
That's a great point.
They don't. We were bigger than Carmel at one point in time.
Well, we're always better.
Well, I have to say that. You know, we made, at our 100th alumni banquet, we made my mother a Westfield Shamrock.
Oh, really?
She had to turn in her
it
Carmel's
took her a long time to get that, though.
Yeah. But anyway, but you know, you had the county seat because I remember my mother's parents. My mother grew up on a farm out just west of Spring Mill, and so her parents went to Noblesville shopping on every Friday night.
That was a big deal, yeah.
That was a big deal. But then Westfield people, I mean, Friday night would be jammed.
Was it?
The grocery store was full. The drugstore. Of course, every day after school, kids would come to the drugstore on the corner and get
something.
vanilla phosphate.
Whatever that is.
Anyway, but
so do you think? Okay, you know what? I'm going to switch completely. because I have a couple other things I want to get to
Okay.
that are interesting, and we're at 35 minutes right now. We're doing
Okay.
good. Okay. So is that okay?
Yes.
All right. So when did you? And if you say you've always been interested in this, I'm gonna cut it out. When did you get serious about the preservation of downtown Westfield?
When did I get serious?
And I understand you probably always had it consciously or
Well,
subconsciously, but when did you start making an effort to really preserve what was created here?
well, in the last 10 years.
Has it been?
Yeah, well, maybe not that long.
Mm-hmm.
But as a child growing up, I guess you just took for granted
Yeah.
the history and so forth because of where being fifth generation.
Mm-hmm.
I knew my family was always here. It was just
Yep.
a given.
Mm-hmm.
So in the last 5-7 years, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
thought, okay, we've got to get serious about this
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. And I think it was a little late.
Yeah.
It's
never
maybe
too early though. That's the
but
hard
it's
part.
never. You've got to start someplace.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like I over the years I've enjoyed going to the historic homes in Noblesville.
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed when I would travel the state. I would
Mhm.
always go find
Check stuff out. Mhm.
and so forth. And of course, when you're a single mom,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have time to do those kinds of things. So there was a period that I wasn't so involved in the community. But
Now, don't
that
give the
way-
listeners the wrong impression. She is no longer a single woman.
No,
All right, she is a happily married.
very much so. Yeah, that's a whole story.
Yeah, that's another
too.
podcast.
That's another.
So the
podcast.
last 10 years, you've really gotten aggressive or interested and made it outspoken about your preservation. How
Yes.
do you feel? So, and there's a rather large group that's involved with you. How do you get people to buy into it? And I know that's probably not the right word, but get involved. So someone like myself or someone that's moving to the community, how would you want them to help? What would be helpful?
What would be helpful? That when we have a public meeting,
Mm-hmm.
So to speak, and we haven't been able to have that for a while
Mm-hmm.
because actually there's not a whole lot of venues where we can meet without them charging us.
Yeah.
And being a nonprofit, it's kind of hard. But okay, we've got a Facebook page now, and that you can go on there, and see and give us ideas
Mm-hmm.
of what you want to see.
Mm.
We don't want to complain about everything
Yeah.
all the time or anything like that, because we have to encourage people to take these properties and know that they're unique
Mm-hmm.
and take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the old yellow house right over here.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That they've redone recently.
They've redone. I want to go in there because I played in
Yeah.
there.
Do you remember the old trusses and stuff? It's just rough hewn wood and everything. It's
Oh,
amazing.
yes. Well, that's what our house is,
Mm-hmm.
hand-hewn beams.
Yes, that's right.
And so, and besides that, my husband lived there when we were in the first and second grade.
Oh, jeez.
And
Oh, memories.
I won't go.
I don't.
into
This
all
is
that.
a G-rated show,
This is a G-rated
Judith.
show. So, but anyway, we had
So you have a Facebook page.
Westfield Preservation Alliance does have a Facebook page that you can go to. You can express. We just had this week, finally somebody, we want to be proactive in reaching people, but we also need for people to reach us.
So and I'm glad you said something about the positive thing. You don't have to be a hard drive and stop growth person to be engaged in the preservation or historical society, correct?
No.
Okay. Now and everyone's not just this crazy. We're not accepting how it's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's truly about preserving stuff as we grow.
Yes. it's preserving, you know, because if you don't know your past, you got to take the past to build the future.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to, a good tree has deep roots. We have deep roots
We
here
do.
in Westfield. And those deep roots bring about a wonderful, healthy tree. And that's what it's all about. You know, you can be creative. You can take, just like what they did in Nashville. Just like what they did back east in Maine. And some of the old original buildings and so forth. Plymouth, Mass. You know, Washington, D.C. We still have a White House. Look how old it is.
Yeah, it's a couple of years old, yeah.
Just, you have to encourage people to take care of what they have. There's houses on North Union Street that people have contacted us about, you know, how do we find out about these things? And we try to help them. Just like Pat and Jane Callahan took the fern and took that back to a beauty in the house and so forth. And because that was a boarding house at one time.
Well, my building that I was in when the Beauchamps bought it, where we had the Union.
Yes.
And they kept, because the front was pretty and it was nice, they did the best they could to maintain that. And the people that own it now think it's the coolest building in the world.
Well, sure.
Because it was cleaned up and
I
preserved.
guess that's where my passion comes in, because these are really cool buildings.
They are.
You know, and you can't build them like that anymore. You can't. I have doing my house in the last few years, and it's a work in progress always. But looking up, researching what craftsman style houses look like, you know, and the colors, and I've tried to do that. You know, try to put that.
But it takes effort.
Because it takes effort. It also takes money.
It does take money. Yeah.
And but yet you bring something old, bring it back to life again.
It's still prettier than the new thing too, probably.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Or the replica, yeah.
And you, just like I say, you can't make those things or build a building like that anymore. You just can't. You know, we've had some tornadoes around us and stuff like that, but just think about the communities that have been wiped out by these old buildings.
Gone. Yep.
They're gone and so forth. And yes, there were a lot of fires. It seems like in Westfield.
Was it the baton twirler? Is that what the problem was? The wild baton?
No, it would have been my.
So we have just a couple minutes here, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I shared a couple pictures the other day of the corner of 31 and 32, what was there before the most recent thing. It was a Taco Bell and a Gas America and something on the other corner, and then it was just gas stations, it seemed like, in a Taco Bell and a really bad hotel. What's it? Would you rather you were looking at that or that new Riverview Hospital out your front door?
Oh my goodness.
What's it like living? I mean, do you not like the Riverview there? And this isn't I'm not trying to get a political or I mean, is it annoying to live out there, or is it not bad?
Okay, I'm not going to use the word annoying, but the hospital could have been built on the other side of 31,
sure,
someplace. You know, that was the old baseball field, and
there was a bank there too, wasn't there?
Well,
maybe?
there was a bank there. Before that, there was a locker plant and so forth, and then there was a gas station in the corner. And this corner over here, where the Shell was, that was the world's largest dairy.
That's right.
And that's a whole nother story too. But being annoyed, I'd rather not, because it's just like planning. That there That's the only entrance into the school
Mm-hmm.
for the kids, for the intermediate school and the middle school, and
Yeah.
the buses and parents to drop off kids. That created more of a
Mm-hmm.
traffic jam right there at the intersection of 31
Mm-hmm.
and 32. That's very poor planning. I mean, I look out my side window, my door, and I see this, and
Is it weird though to have a 7-story building out your front door when it was always 1-story things and a
and
field and quiet?
absolutely,
Is that weird?
the quiet,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you know, it is.
And I know you don't
weird.
have to. You choose to live where you live.
I
Yeah.
choose to
Mm-hmm.
live where I live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our grandkids bring their friends over. Oh, this is a cool house. You know, can we come back here and blah blah blah. And so that's what I guess that's what when I've worked with children over the years and presented them Westfield history and seen the excitement of these kids.
Uh-huh.
I wish I could get adults that excited too about our history and what we have here. Because this community, yes, it's about the people, but it's about those who have come before us. You know, we've got college presidents, we've got doctors, we've got lawyers, you know, we've got astronomers, you know, people that if they know the history, wow,
They'd
this
be
is
very
really
interested
cool.
in it. Yeah.
And the kids get excited about it.
Well, that is a great wrap up because we made it to exactly 46 minutes,
Wow.
and I absolutely appreciate you doing this. So, to those listening, and we'll share this all over the place. It'll be on social media, it'll be on YouTube, it'll be on our What's Up Westfield podcast, which is on iTunes. If you want to learn more about Westfield's the Historical Society, Preservation Society, I know there's a lot of people involved in it, but I would encourage you to reach out to Judith Stanley Shuck and show some interest. I think it's a cool program. It's not just hard-lined stop growth people. It's people that really care for the most part, and I really appreciate you doing this with me. I thought it was fun. Did you have fun?
Thank you.
Do you feel like you got to
Yes.
say what you want? Do you feel like I cut you off the whole time?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no, I feel comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah, prayer does a lot of work.
Absolutely.
But,
Well, thank you for doing it, and I know
you're
you're busy,
welcome.
and we're gonna wrap it up. But Judy Shuck, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
You're
All right.
welcome.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Be sure to subscribe, like, and follow. What's up, Westfield?